Page 12, Sonatina in C major. No sharps or flats, C major, okay. 2/4 time at the beginning. Now if you look this over, and hopefully when you start a new piece of music, you kind of look it all over and get a general idea what's here. You'll notice at the bottom of the page, the printing is indented a little bit. Now if you look at the end of the previous line, it has a double bar. So we know we went into another section. Actually, with a sonatina, it's not just another section, it's another movement. It's like sonatinas and sonatas. They take multiple pieces of music and they stick them together. And the whole thing together is a sonata or a sonatina. So this sonatina has 2 movements to it. The first 4 lines on page 12 is one movement. And then the other movement starts at the bottom of page 12 and does all of that on page 13. Now I treat these movements as separate pieces, independent pieces. And many times when people will play movements, they don't necessarily play every movement in the sonata. They might just play one movement here, the first movement or the last movement or the middle movement or the whatever. They're separate pieces that happen to be put together. And so I treat them as separate pieces. In my opinion, at the end of the 4th line there on page 12, instead of the double bar, that should have had a thin and thick bar, because that's really the end of the first movement. That is one piece of music. So this video, I'm only going to talk about the first 4 lines on page 12, the first movement. 2/4 time, get the notes, the fingering, and the rhythm. Right hand first, you're starting here. So it's one, just quarter notes, not a big deal, I hope, because the left hand is pretty busy. And now we get 8th notes. 1 and 2. And again, when I first start a piece, I play it all connected. I'll do the slurring and all that later. 2nd line is the same thing. Let's go down to the 3rd line. Now in the 2nd line here, you can move up and come down, because here. Or you can scrunch up. As I said, I like to play it legato when I first get it, so at least at first I'm going to scrunch up, and I may move later on. So 3rd line is here, and the thumb is down here. You're not here, you're here. 1 and 2, and then the 3rd finger comes up, and they want 5th finger again. That's fine. And now they want 3rd finger. I disagree with that, because again, that's I can do that. I just don't need to. I can use 4th finger there and still use thumb on the next note. To me, that's more comfortable. So I suggest you do that. And then measure 25, you just scrunch up a little more and put thumb on the C. Left hand, you're down here in this C position. 8th notes, it's a broken chord, C chord, and then now 5/7 chord, except you're just using 2 of the notes. That's fine. Now again, little finger's going to come down again. It's like you were using a 1 chord, a 5/7. Yeah, that's fine, no big deal. Half note, 1, 2, 3. 4th, let's go down to the 3rd line. You're ending the 2nd line here. 3rd line is the thumb here. Just scrunch up and put thumb on F. 1, 2, 3. You don't need all those finger numbers there. All you need is the thumb. And just play the rest. You're just on those keys. Just play those notes. Use those fingers. Thumb up for the G. Now you're back up to the C position. And in measure 22, remember the numbers at the beginning of each line in a box are measure numbers, so just count across from 17. Measure 22 is right after the half note here, and then measure 23, they want 2nd finger again. Okay, there's other fingerings, but that's fine. You didn't move the hand necessarily, leave the thumb on the G, because you got to do that. The last few measures, starting with the half note there is here, and then here, and then a quarter note. Put the the hands together. The idea is try and get the fingers to work together on the hands because you're using different fingers at different times. The second line is very similar to the first, so let's go down to the third line. You're ending the second line here. Kind of get that. I alter the fingering a little bit because I have a habit of a different style of fingering, but the fingering in the book is fine on some of these places, except for the suggestions I made. We go back and we add the slurs. Each hand has its own set of slurs, and they're not always the same, so watch out. You're starting out with together, connected, and then both of them lift up together. It's like a breath. Just go on and again. So far, both hands are lifting up the same. Well, take a look at the third line. Here, it starts out the same. Lift up. Right there. Measure 24. You're going to lift up in the right hand, but the left hand's connected. And at the measure 25, they're showing in the left hand, you hear. And that's okay, or you can just connect them all together. But, so to start a measure 24 going on is I think I would rather have the left hand all connected there though. So do that again. It's here. See, I'm just gonna connect it again. Measure 24. So forth. So the phrasing, and then we can add the dynamics. It is to the melody, and it's kind of hard sometimes to tell what's melody and not. And I'm going to suggest to you that the right hand is the melody in this movement. So keep the left hand in the background all the way through. So at the beginning, this soft applies to the melody. That means the left hand on all these eighth notes got to be very soft, and that's kind of hard to do when you got so many notes going. You got to really make them soft. So forth, you go through and you put in the dynamics. I don't want to spoon feed you the dynamics. You can read them and see what they are. And speed-wise, it's moderato. In my opinion, it's about what I've been doing. Just question the phrasing in the left hand here. I don't like all these phrasings. I would prefer, I think, just to play the left hand all connected. Because the left hand really isn't a melody in itself. It's all accompaniment. It's all broken chords accompaniment. And it just makes more sense to me just to play the left hand all connected. And in my opinion, if you want to do that, do that. So it's like the first line, when you would separate at the fourth measure there. Rather than lifting both hands, I'm just going to lift the right hand. Play the same note again, you lift up, you have to. But otherwise, I think it's okay to just connect the left hand all the way through. However, from the play with me, I'll do the slurring shown in the book. Now, I'd like to do that now. I'll give us four counts. Now let's play it together very slowly. 1, 2, ready, and go, and 1, and 2. test.